Hey everyone, welcome back to Gender Talks, the spectrum of knowledge. I'm so pumped about today's episode.
Me too. Okay, so I want to start with something that literally gave me chills. 2022, this Facebook post just exploded. Vietnamese poet Dạ Thảo Phương wrote about being raped over 20 years ago. And she said, today I speak out.
Yeah, I remember that. Within like 48 hours, tens of thousands of people shared her story. The hashtag Stand by Phương was everywhere.
Exactly, and it made me think, why did it take 20 years? Why do so many survivors wait so long?
Right, and that's what we want to explore today. Because to understand the hashtag MeToo in Vietnam, we need to go way back, like over 100 years back.
So today's big question, how did these waves of gender consciousness spread across borders, and can they actually create lasting change?
Let's dive in.
Okay, so when people talk about feminism, they often use this metaphor of waves. And I actually love it because it shows how the movement kept building on itself.
Totally. So the first wave happened in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and it's basic about legal rights. So women fighting for the right to vote, to own property, and to go to school.
Which sounds so obvious now, but back then, revolutionary.
For sure, but here's the thing. This wave was pretty limited. It mostly represented white, middle-class women in the West, women of color, working-class women, women in colonized country, basically left out.
Yeah, and that gets criticized a lot about early feminism.
Yes, so then when we get to the second wave in the 60s to the 80s, and this is where things got deeper. It wasn't just about legal equality anymore, it was about liberation from patriarchal systems.
Oh, and I love the slogan from this era, the personal is political.
Yes, so what does that mean? Things like housework, sexuality, reproductive rights, these aren't just about private issues, they are shaped by power structures in society.
So like, who does the dishes isn't just about you and your partner, it's about how society expects women to do unpaid labor.
Exactly, and then in the 90s, we hit the third wave. That is when the intersectionality really took off.
Okay, so intersectionality, what that is actually mean?
Coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, basically it asks, can we talk about gender without talking about race or class or sexuality?
And the answer is no, right?
Exactly, and that's when a black woman the experience of sexism is different from a white woman's, because racism is also in the mix. A poor woman faces different barriers than a rich woman.
So feminism couldn't just be one voice anymore.
Yes, and now we are in the fourth wave, the digital feminism, when there happens the social media, hashtag activism, and the real-time storytelling.
Which is wow, because now someone can share their story and reach millions of people instantly. That's how the hashtag MeToo happened. Here's something really important though, feminism didn't just spread from the West to everywhere else. Vietnam wasn't just sitting around waiting for Western feminists to teach them about equality.
Oh my god, yes, that's such a colonial way of thinking about it. During the war, Vietnamese women wasn't just about entering the workforce, they were literally fighting on the front lines, running factories, raising children, and all at once.
Yeah, Vietnamese women were already liberated in ways that some Western feminists were still fighting for.
Exactly, and there is this scholar, Nguyễn Thu Hương, who argues that gender equality in Vietnam developed through war, socialism, and reconstruction, not through any Western feminist movement.
So when the hashtag MeToo arrived in 2018, it wasn't just copy-paste of the American version?
No, it had to navigate Vietnamese culture, Vietnamese law or lack of laws, and a whole different social context. Okay, so October 2017, when the hashtag MeToo exploded globally after Harvey Weinstein, 6 months later, April 2018, Vietnam has its first major wave.
Right, so there's this young woman, an intern at Tuổi Trẻ newspaper, one of the biggest in Vietnam, and she accuses a senior editor of raping her.
She posted about it on Facebook almost immediately. Other female journalists start coming forward.
Yeah, and these hashtags pop up. Me too, ngừng im lặng, stop staying silent, and tòa soạn sạch, clean newsroom.
Well, the editor resigns but denies everything. And here's the thing, no legal action, no trial, nothing at all.
Which is frustrating, to say the least.
But wait, it gets worse. A month later, May 2018, three women accused this famous rock singer, Phạm Anh Khoa, of sexual harassment.
Oh wow, and he like a celebrity?
Yes, and here's the ironic part. He was a spokesperson for a UN campaign towards women.
Oh no.
Yeah, so at first he threatens to sue, then he gives this public apology. But listen to what he said. In Soviet, slapping each other the butts is normal. It's like a greeting at work.
I'm sorry, what? That was his defense?
I wish I was joking. Obviously, massive public outrage, the UN cuts ties, concerts get cancelled, but again, no trial, no legal consequences.
So even though people were angry, the system didn't actually hold him accountable.
Exactly, and there's data on this. Researcher Dương Thúy Phạm analyzed his Facebook activities. Posts with hashtag #MeToo spiked to over 100 at the peak, but then dropped right back down.
So it was like this huge burst of energy, but it didn't sustain.
Right, but the research points out why no organization behind it, no clear goals, just individuals speaking out without a movement structure to keep it going.
Plus all the other factors, the guilt loss, victim blaming, fear of stigma.
So that was 2018, but then 2022 happens and something shifts.
This is the That Thảo Phương case we mentioned at the beginning, right?
Yes, and April 2022, she posted this incredibly detailed account of being raped by Lương Ngọc An, the deputy editor of Văn Nghệ newspaper, and this happened over 20 years ago.
Wait, 20 years? Why come forward now?
She was super clear about this. She said that I don't expect justice from the legal system. The statute of limitations has passed, but I will not stay silent.
Wow.
Yeah, and she included this handwritten report from 1999, signed by witnesses. She talked about the abuse, the unwanted pregnancy, the abortion, everything.
And how did people react?
Within days, tens of thousands of people shared her story. The hashtag Stand By Phương went viral, and then another woman, Bùi Mai Hạnh, comes forward saying the same man trying to rape her 25 years earlier.
So suddenly, it's not just one person would.
Right, and here's what different. In 2022, the majority of people stood with the victim.
Really? That's huge.
I mean, there was still backlash. People still said, why didn't you report it back then? But overall, much more supportive than 2018.
So what changed between 2018 and 2022?
A few things. The 2019 labor code actually defined sexual harassment for the first time. The ground was more prepared.
But there are still obstacles, right?
Oh, totally. Most survivors still don't seek formal help. Victim blaming culture is still very real.
Okay, so big picture, is the hashtag #MeToo in Vietnam a success or a failure?
Honestly, I think it's both. It showed the power of social media to break silence and create solidarity, but it also exposed the limits when there's no institutional support.
Right. Hashtags can raise awareness, but they can't change laws.
Exactly. So the digital activism is incredibly powerful, but it needs to be paired with organized movement, legal reform, and culture change.
So it's not enough to just post online? There has to be follow through?
Yes, and that's really struck me about Dạ Thảo Phương. She came forward knowing there would be no legal justice. She did it anyway to break the culture of silence.
That's so brave.
It really is, and I think that what hashtag #MeToo is fundamentally about. It's not just about punishing perpetrators, it's about survivors reclaiming their stories and refusing to carry shame that was never there.
Yeah, and every time someone speak up, is a little bit easier for the next person.
Exactly, and that from the first wave over 100 years ago to the hashtag #MeToo today, the pattern is the same. Change never starts from silence.
I love that. Change never starts from silence.
So if there's one thing we want people to take away, your voice matters, your story matters, and the more we listen to each other, the more we can build real lasting change. So thanks so much for listening to Gender Talks, the spectrum of knowledge.
Join us next time as we continue exploring the spectrum where understanding builds community and voice creates change.
And remember,
change
start with knowledge, and knowledge start with listening.
See you next week.